My name's Andrew Stotz, and today I want to talk to you about my research called Peerless Performers. Peerless Performers, where I'm trying to identify what's the best company on any particular measure. This time I want to look at banks, so I'm going to look at ROA of banks, and also I want to talk to you about my top pick, Jasmine. So when I looked at banks, the first thing I needed to do was look at the 10 major banks in Thailand. In addition, I gathered data on 127 banks across Asia on every measure, right? So it's a lot of data to try to bring together and understand. I looked at how high a bank's ROA is, how it's been over 5 years, whether it's gone up or down, and what's the level of volatility. In the end, the conclusion was CM Commercial Bank and TISCO are best, with K-Bank a very close runner-up. The chart right here shows you the ROA and the change in ROA. The little hash mark in the example of KK shows that the change of ROA has been very, very negative. So though they've had a high ROA over a long period of time, 5 years, it's actually been deteriorating over a long period of time. And that's the reason why KK does not make it as the leader in ROA. Now, with ROA, you can dissect it the way you can do ROE with a DuPont analysis, and the way that I do it is look at asset utilization, which is a positive figure. That's all the income that they produce divided by the assets that they have. And then we would subtract away the expenses, so cost control, and the charges for provisions, which would be considered asset quality, and then the tax burden, and the result is ROA. We can see that Thailand, except for an exceptional period in 2007 where two state-related banks took massive provisions, that ROA has actually been steadily in line with Asia, which has been rising over time. SCB and TISCO have been significantly above that, though TISCO has recently been hit by rising cost of funds. So let's look at those and decompose those. What we can see is that the gross income divided by assets is about 5.4 now as far as first half of 2012. Then we can take away the other expenses, the main one being non-interest expenses, which is 3.1. Take away the other ones, and you end up with the gap between the line and the bar being the return on assets. If we look at SCB, we can see what's driving it. It's the consolidation, the purchase and consolidation of their life assurance business that they've brought into the bank completely. That's pushed up the income as well as the expenses, but ROA still remains very high. In the case of TISCO, we can see that their ROA has been falling over time, though not nearly as dramatically as KK's. But I would argue that we're getting to a point where the damage from the rising cost of funds is being worked out, and so I think that we'll see ROA leveling out. And what you can see also, the yellow bars come down because TISCO's tried to tie their cost in with their income, and so they've been able to bring that down. So that summarizes return on assets across the Thai banking sector. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about Jasmine, the top pick in my portfolio. I've been asked 7 questions about this company, and I answer them in the research. Rather than go through all those questions, I want to show you the chart that gets me most excited about the story of this stock. This chart shows the blue and yellow stacked bar of the amount of broadband subscribers that they have, which is now about 1 million across Thailand, with most of them being in provincial areas. If we look at the fact that there's no major competition in the provincial areas, and we know the capex needs in order to grow a certain amount, with relative amount of certainty you can say they're going to grow this broadband business until 2015 when they have 2 million subscribers. Now they have about 30% or so of the market, so we need to look at what would that mean. If there's no change in market share, would that be a lot? Would Thailand be over-penetrated? Well, the answer is no, it wouldn't be a lot, and it wouldn't be over-penetrated. That would take Thailand to an 8.5% broadband penetration ratio, which is nowhere near developed Asia, but would probably be about in line with what's happening in developing Asia. Now, what's most remarkable about this is that Jazz has only been in the broadband business for about 3 or 4 years. So you can see that the past, you don't have to worry about it because they've sold off their old businesses and they're focused completely on this. And by focusing on this, in first quarter they had a 55% gross margin and a 20% net margin. The return on invested capital is rising fast and will soon be at the exact same level as the telecom industry as a whole. But the stock's a lot cheaper than Advance or DTAG, and certainly a lot cheaper than the consumer stocks around Thailand. And isn't this a consumer stock? Every single one of their broadband customers is one consumer or one household. So here you've got a consumer stock, a telco stock, high profitability and rising, yet is still cheap. This bar shows the ROIC divided by the multiple of that you're going to be paying, and you can see that this is still a cheap stock. And so I like this stock. I think it's got a lot of future to it, and that sums up this week's report. Thanks for watching.